Welcome back to the Culture of Currencies Market Report, where we look at the Wall Street Journal, take a look at these markets, and then see what metals did this week. This video is brought to you by APMEX, the American Precious Metals Exchange, where I, right here, have a box that I'll be unboxing this week, in fact, over from APMEX. And so I trust them with my money, as you can see. Maybe you should consider trusting them with yours, because they have some of the coolest world bullion coins that you can't seem to get anywhere else oftentimes. So that being said, APMEX is what I like to do as a collector to check out, and I highly encourage you checking it out as well. In fact, there's a link down below in the description. This doesn't necessarily give me any money or kickbacks, but they do want to see what type of an influence this channel has. And so if you're somebody who ever checks out APMEX and or buys from APMEX, use the link in the bottom of my videos that I just put in. It's a brand new link, and all that's going to do is let them know that what I'm doing here is influencing you to consider them, not necessarily purchase, but consider them as a potential client. So in the news right here, we have a lot of things that I see on the front page, and then some that I don't. This is one of the biggest stories I think happened all week. Right there, and we have some silver coins to prove it, yet it has nothing to do with what's on this front page because for some reason it was not put there, so I think it is my duty to bring it to you. As you see right here, we have a silver coin from the nation of Rwanda. Take a look at that. That's their coat of arms. I've got a couple here. In fact, I have a lot of them it's hidden away. But Rwanda is one of my favorite African nations for silver. And here's another one. Another country from the Great Lakes region of Africa. This is the Democratic Republic of Congo. As you can see, beautiful coats of arms. Nowhere on this front page do we see anything about that. And that is absolutely crazy because these are nations that have for 30 years been just feuding at war. Millions and millions have died over this time. And guess what? Yesterday I watched a press conference and representatives of Rwanda and representatives of the Democratic Republic of Congo came together at the White House and decided enough was enough. And they have not only had a ceasefire, but they have signed peace agreements, which are foundationary. So these are going to be agreements not only to end the bloodshed, but also to open up diplomatic ties and markets to each other, because if you know anything about this area of Africa, the resources that they have are vast. In fact, it is said that the resources alone that are sitting in the ground are more than the GDP of the United States when we talk about their raw capability. Obviously, there's a lot of time that is taken to go down and get those, but these are very, very, very wealthy areas of Africa in relation to resources. So to see them no longer feuding is just a fantastic thing. In fact, this is for my whole life, I have seen these countries at war. If you've ever seen Hotel Rwanda, that's just a small chapter of what has gone on in these areas. And my kids get to grow up in an area of Africa where they will not know of these things as far as being a current conflict. They will know them about what they have gone through, but not as a current conflict. So that is a huge, huge deal. And I thought it was cool that our silver coins that we collect from around the world could tell that story. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the exchange. What a crazy, crazy, crazy week. I went ahead and highlighted in orange this week. We have some huge movement, as you can see. Everything just going up and up and up over the recent days, in spite of bombs and all these other things that have happened. Dow Jones Industrial, 43,000. So we are not far off from the 45 mark to bring the Dow Jones Industrial to an all-time high. It gained an entire percentage point there. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. American markets are thriving. S&P 500 is next. We hit 61.73, and guess what? That's an all-time high. A lot of skeptics out there said that tariffs and all of these things were going to tank the markets. Well, now that they have been digested, look where we're at. And we haven't even got to the part where we've issued our negotiations to a point where both nations come to the table and sign agreements. I know China is right on the doorstep of doing that. So in spite of many nations not even getting there, the American markets are taking off. NASDAQ Composite Index, we see the same thing. 20,273, and this is the most volatile of them. And look, all-time high once again. We've tracked the intraday trading the entire time, and the trends are all up. And it's not just America, folks. We go over here to these internationals, though we had some losses on the week over here in Brazil and Chile and Mexico. Look at the European zone. Almost all of the European sectors saw some gains, some of them significant gains. So it's just fantastic to see the world. Though there has been so much conflict over these last months, there's just so much to look forward to in regards to what's ahead. As we know, there was a conflict in the Middle East, and hopefully we are on the resolution phase of that, especially the Iran side of it. So it would be really cool if Iran got to the point where they could be accepted in the Abraham Accords, and we see some of the pathway forward for them to open up some trade and some economic stability so that they don't have to rely on fear for control. And as well, over there in Ukraine and Russia, hopefully they get to the point where they can get to a resolution as well. So obviously peace to me is more important than dollars, and we had some beautiful, beautiful moments in those African nations in doing that, but we don't know necessarily what is ahead. So hopefully we'll see some good things. Let's go ahead and look at our markets for the metals. As we noted, silver had a roller coaster week, ending at $36.23 per ounce, only changing 1 penny over the week. So 0.03%, which is really not much at all. Now, we know the markets did really well and all of that kind of stuff. But what about the US dollar? Well, when it comes to the silver and the US dollar, well, as you see here, the US dollar went down about a percentage point and silver was kind of flat. So silver technically did win the day, but it wasn't really a lot. Dow Jones and S&P took off, as you know, and that's where we see the disparity. The markets were sitting 2 to 3% on the week, and we have silver, just basically flat, ended pretty close to where it started. So that being said, the markets have won this week, and it is very hard to keep up with the economic machine. But I will tell you, silver did better than gold, which is not necessarily a surprise, as once again, they're not the same asset. Silver is an industrial commodity more than anything else. Gold is not. So they do act different in situations such as this. Gold closed the week at $3,289 per ounce. They lost $100 per ounce, which is roughly 3%. And you can see that slow decline here happening starting about Wednesday. What about with the US dollar? Well, the US dollar outperformed gold, which we don't say that often, but here we are. Gold just took a tumble this week, and that happens. When you've been high for so long, sometimes you have to come down and rest, I guess. Markets, obviously, huge. We saw the growth in the markets, and gold went down for a spread of almost 6% different between the two, which is crazy to think about. So that is what we have for you today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this market report, and hopefully, as always, you remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.